The complete gout solution is about giving you the tools to make your own decisions to actually get rid of gout. Get rid of it permanently and stop it reoccurring. And actually, if you've got a bout of gout right now, to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Yes, it can be done. There are tens of thousands of studies on gout. And amongst those, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies to do with diet and lifestyle and environmental factors and gout. But at the end of the day, I can give you the information. You're the one who has to do something about it. So please, if you're not willing to make changes, don't bother continuing on. But if you are, I'm going to give you the most up-to-date information and a program right at the end. So hang in to the end. It's only about 25 minutes. And at the end, I promise you, you will understand more than your GP knows, more than your specialist knows, and you will be able to take specific action. Now, gout affects a lot of people. Around about 3 to 4%, depending on the country. In the US, it's 3.9%. Twice as many men have it compared to women, and the rates are going up in all countries, but fastest in the developing countries. So we know it's not genetic. Yes, there's a genetic component I'll mention later, but it's not genetic. It's what we're doing with our diet and our lifestyle. Now, there is another condition that's just as important as gout, and that's hyperuricemia. And that is literally the increase in uric acid. And unfortunately, about 20% of people in developed countries, e.g. Australia, UK, New Zealand, US, Europe, 20% or so have hyperuricemia, so too much uric acid. Now, not all of those will convert or actually show up as gout. And unfortunately, we also know that about 14% of the adolescent population will actually have hyperuricemia. Now, the problem with that, which I'll show you in a moment, is that while you don't have the symptoms of gout, you may not know you've got it, but you're still at high risk of all those conditions: heart attack, stroke, kidney damage, the same as gout, but you just don't have the pain at the moment. So stay tuned. There's a lot of information coming, but I guarantee you wait to the end and you'll be amazed at what you can do, how fast you can change the situation right now. So what causes gout? What are the risk factors? Some of these you'll know, some you won't. And they're all interrelated. They will affect one or two or three of the other conditions in there. So it's important to understand what they are, and then of course what we can do about them. And the first one is gut dysbiosis. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of studies linking what's called dysbiosis, a mix-up of the microbiome in the large intestine in particular, where the 100 trillion microorganisms in the large intestine, in the gut, are out of balance. And the result of this we call dysbiosis, and clearly all the studies show that this dysbiosis is a major risk factor, as is diet. And we know alcohol consumption, fructose. Now, this isn't the fruit fructose, this is the fructose that's added to your sugary drinks and added as a sweetener. That is the fructose. So don't confuse it with the fructose directly. Yeah, there's similarities, but... And another one is the sodium-potassium ratio. A lot of people would say, oh, it's sodium chloride salt. No, it's actually the sodium-potassium ratio. And the biggest cause of all of this, and this links with all of these issues, is low nutrition, poor nutrition. That is, not getting enough of the enzymes, the proteins, the minerals and the vitamins to turn over all the cogs that need to be working, which you'll see very soon, that have to be able to eliminate the buildup of uric acid. Then we've got obesity, and again, as a consequence of all these. And a more recent phenomenon, people have understood that it's not just diabetes, but also insulin. So sugar spikes, even if you're not a diabetic or a pre-diabetic, sugar spikes can actually be a risk factor in having diabetes, in developing gout. So it's a risk factor. Inactivity, environmental contaminants, particularly exposure to heavy metals like lead, have been shown as a risk factor for the development. Acidosis. Now, people get confused. Your blood pH level should be around about 7.36. If it changes a little bit, you get very sick. If it goes down a little bit, you get very sick. And your body does whatever it can to keep that balance perfectly in there. But it has to use lots of resources to do that. It just doesn't happen out there. To maintain this balance, this homeostasis, it requires all the things to be working at the right time. And that means having the things to balance out our acid lifestyle. For example, alcohol, fructose, and poor nutrition all increase the acidity in our cells, cell production, increase, so our body has to work harder to do it. So this acidosis that I'll talk about is a contributing factor to gout. And in fact, they find that a urine pH of under 6 is a pretty good indicator that gout is there. So you can do a quick urine test, but we'll talk about that later. And then the last one I've got here is pharmaceuticals. Most people don't realize that there are pharmaceuticals out there that are commonly used, and that they can be a contributing factor to gout because they're stopping those metabolic processes that are required to get rid of the uric acid out of the body. Now, don't confuse the risk factors with the triggers. These are the things that cause that bout. So if you're in pain right now, it's probably as a result of a trigger, and that is the non-plant high purine foods. So purine, these are, you know what these are, don't you? Yeah, these are things that produce uric acid, and you'll see that in a moment. But what happens is it's not the plant-based ones that are doing it. It appears to be the meat and the seafood, in particular the very rich seafood like the crustaceans and so on, but not the plant-based ones, and we'll talk about that. Alcohol and heat. Yep, heat can be a little trigger in there too. And heat's really interesting because, as you'll see a little bit later on, that you can have a benefit from cold and hot if you mix and match a little bit. But going back to here, the first and foremost of the program, without getting into any more detail, is obviously we can deal with some of these straight away. And my first message is we need to look at certain things that we can do quickly to start resolving it. So you look at that list and you go, well, what can I do? To take the next step, we have to understand a little bit about what goes on and why gout actually occurs. To begin with, first of all, there is a genetic link, but it doesn't matter. You may be the most susceptible person genetically and not get gout, or hyperuricemia, too much uric acid, or you may be the least susceptible person genetically and still get it. Why? Because lifestyle and diet rolls or dominates over genetics, okay? It's called epigenetics. So it's still, no matter what we do to ourselves. And the critical factors here are, we know that diet plays a role in having purines, and these purines are metabolized into uric acid. And we have purine-rich foods, soft drinks and alcohol, which, you know, primarily are the three drivers of this. However, what most people don't understand is we have an endogenous. Endogenous means within our body. So our body produces more purines than we actually get in the diet. It recycles all the old and broken down and wasting cells away. It breaks them down and recycles and produces purines. As I said, more than the diet. So that's why diet, while it's very, very important, isn't the only step we need to understand. So these purines then are converted into uric acid by an enzyme system called xanthine oxidase. Now, this is one of the ways that some drugs work, by the way. They will stop that, so it stops the production of xanthine oxidase, but it actually has lots of serious side effects. So what we're looking at, the purines are converted to uric acid. Now, there are two ways it can go. One down here is on the way to gout, or one goes over here to excretion, getting rid of it out of the body. And that's what we're going to be aiming at. I'm going to show you how to actually increase that. But that excretion, 70% in a healthy individual, 70% of the excretion is done in the kidneys, about 30% in the intestines. Now, if you have kidney damage, or there's too much, or you've got chronic kidney disease, then the intestines take on more of that load, so they can go up in percentage. But what we're going to consider is the factors in here that decrease excretion. We don't want that. We want to increase it. So what are the things? Poor diet, chronic kidney disease, and lots of pharmaceuticals decrease excretion. So as a result of that, we've got back up here a buildup of uric acid. It's building up because it's not being eliminated out of the body. Whereas if we look at things that increase excretion, the two major driving forces to get it out of the body, to stimulate the excretion, are improved nutrition, and lots of certain individual key nutrients, which I'll share with you, are fantastic at dramatically increasing the excretion rate, and your gut, a healthy gut. So two factors there that are really important to increase the excretion, which is what we want to do to get out of the body. Because if we don't get it out of the body, and then heads down here. Now, our body can also reabsorb some and use it because uric acid, as I said, is actually at low levels beneficial to our body. It's considered an antioxidant at low levels. And so reabsorbing it, and so there are nutrients that we can also help reabsorb some of that uric acid so it doesn't get down to this stage, which is hyperuricemia, which is too much uric acid. Hyper meaning high, too much, and uricemia is uric acid. So too much uric acid. And that goes down and forms crystals, and of course you end up with gout. Now that can form primarily in the toes. The big toe is the biggest one, the major port or problem area, but it can happen in lots of joints around the body. And the gout, obviously extremely painful and leads to inflammation, and then that leads to an increase in chronic illnesses. All metabolic illnesses and so on are linked with this, uric acid, poor sleep, a whole raft of conditions in there, as well as cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and strokes, atherosclerosis, increased levels of triglycerides. All of these factors are linked with gout, the inflammation, and an increased risk of mortality as a result. So we want to take action. See, another pathway that it can go to is it can come down here to the too much uric acid, the hyperuricemia, and it can go across here to no symptoms. So you don't even know that you've actually got it because you don't have the pains. And for some people, it can be significant, really high levels of uric acid and still show no signs or symptoms, or at least not the gout symptoms. But again, it leads to inflammation and similar rates of cardiovascular disease and chronic illness and mortality as well. So it's important here that what we want to do is move this side all over here down to this side. We want to keep it there and go down that way. So we're going to increase excretion, change the reabsorption, improve the metabolism right at the beginning of it. And yes, we're also going to lower the purines, at least in the short term, because we want to get the best effect as soon as possible. The first part of the solution is obviously dealing with the big issues, and that means lifestyle issues. And the first one is activity. The relationship between gout and inactivity is very, very strong. And the research shows that people who have gout, who increase their activity, not necessarily during the bout because of the pain associated with, but increase their activity, reduce the risk of reoccurring gout. So the simple thing is to get up there and walk, get up there and swim, get up there and do whatever you want, but just be more active. It's simple, and we all know it has so many multiple benefits around the body for heart attacks, strokes, all forms of chronic illness and so on. The other one is weight loss. And while up until about 5 years ago, there was debate, there weren't convincing studies on it, there is now convincing studies, even studies that have shown that banding of the stomach, which led to weight loss, led to a decrease in uric acid formation, which led to a decrease in the rates of gout. So the studies are now done, and they're coming through and they're showing that weight loss is important. So let's look at ways that we can lose weight. Now, I have another video on that, so please check on all the videos I've got there. They're comprehensive, and they'll go through all of this information. But of course, the program in itself, the solution that we're dealing with here, will help you with that. But the first and foremost one is fasting. Fasting has actually been shown to help with reducing the bout of gout and also reducing the severity of the gout attack. Now, why? Because it changes the whole metabolism of the body and clears out things a lot faster. And I've been a big fan for a long, long time of fasting, and I've told people for 20, 30 years, do the 12-12, okay? That's the first one. So that's have a 12-hour window when you eat and a 12-hour window when you don't. If you eat over those hours and you eat 14, 15 hours a day, which, you know, the midnight snacks or the snack in the early, whatever it is, your digestive system doesn't get a chance to rest. And believe it or not, that's linked with your gut dysbiosis and, of course, all these other factors like insulin sensitivity and so on. So we need to make sure we have plenty of time for our digestive system to actually have a rest and do the work it needs to digest it. And then the second one, but the best one, is the 18-6. And that is, if you've got a bout of gout, just try it. 18 hours of not eating, 6 hours of eating healthier foods. You'll be surprised at the efficiency, because once you get to that time, after about 16, 18 hours, all of a sudden your body's cleaning mechanisms start to work, and it gets rid of all that build-up gunk throughout all your body, and your liver and your kidney, it passes things through, your digestive tract, all of them start to be cleaned out. So it's a win-win situation, and definitely for improving gout symptoms. Now, the longer you maintain that, the better it is. Of course, fasting shows that you live longer with it too. It extends what are called the telomere lengths of in your DNA and your chromosomes and so on. So at the end of the day, we know it has multiple benefits. So starting it with a gout incident is a pretty good reason to get going. Now, temperature is really interesting because most people will apply cold to stop the pains, which is what you do. You sprain an ankle, you put it on, stops the pain, which is great in the short term. But in the long term, cold is actually one of the factors for the crystallization of gout. And what we know is that the big toe, which is the furthest part of the body away from the heart, tends to be the place of most of the gout. And that's probably linked with the fact that it's also the coldest temperature in the body. Your feet are the coldest temperature. Not while you're moving around and so on, but at night time or when you're sitting down for a long period of time, they get very cool by comparison to the rest of your body. And the crystals form in the big toe, which is the coldest part of your foot, because it's furthest from the heart. So cold can have short-term benefit, long-term has no benefits. Although other studies showing cold immersion, so hopping in some cold water, the stuff that Wim Hof does, and getting freezing for a while stimulates everything in the body, so that may be appropriate, but you don't put the cold on the toe for too long. Even better though is heat, because heat might increase the pain a little bit, but what it does is increase the circulation and clears everything out a lot more. Now that would also mean raising your foot up would help too, and of course the activity, any activity would do the same. So all of these things will actually benefit. But absolutely heat. Now, another one that shows up in the research is Chinese acupuncture. And don't worry, they don't have to put the needles in on the toe. But Chinese acupuncture shows with relief of gout symptoms and a reduction in the incidence of gout. So it's a win-win situation. So that then takes us to the big picture of diet. We've done lifestyle, or given you the idea where to start. Diet is really complex, but also simple. Complex in that there are certain things you have to do, and it alters literally the whole metabolism throughout your body and has win-win situation. And the first one is obviously get rid of fructose. Now that's not the fructose out of fruit, that is the high fructose corn syrup that's put in all of your drinks, all of the soft drinks. It's used as a sugar, as an artificial or a sweetener in many foods and so on. Oh, by the way, artificial sweeteners are a no-no too. If you want a good one, try xylitol or maybe even stevia. But stay away from high fructose corn syrup, an absolute must, because that's not just one of the triggers, that is a key. One of the major factors in the development of gout. Reduce your exposure to processed foods, particularly processed grains and sugary foods as well, because they all cause insulin spikes. So if you're eating a pizza, even if it's a meat pizza or a cheese pizza, it's going to cause an insulin spike, and that insulin spike is one of the risk factors, one of many risk factors linked to diet and the development of gout and gout attacks. So make sure, cut down your alcohol. And there's a big move out there that, you know, we don't need as much alcohol. We don't need alcohol, in fact. So the message is cut down your alcohol, and if you're in a bout of gout, get rid of it. Now, you're probably saying, why do certain beers have a bigger incident for gout than others? And these tend to be the wheat beers, which have higher purine levels in them because of the malt, I think it is. So coming back to here, and these are pretty simple, and I'm going to go through a couple of these specifically literally in a few minutes. But what happens is you want to increase your vegetables. There is no doubt about it. Even your purine-rich vegetables, e.g. beans. So beans are fantastic for preventing gout. Wow. Really? Yes, even though they're rich in purines, and again, you already know the reason for that. Nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, essential oils, supplement, and water, tea, and coffee. They all reduce the incidence of gout. And they all have a fantastic role in reducing your risk of heart attack, stroke, cancers, all of those other long-term chronic illnesses as well. But if you're serious about your gout, you need to increase all of these in your diet. More specifically, there are lots of things that you can add that have been shown in all of the scientific studies to reduce gout, reduce the buildup of uric acid, to increase the excretion of uric acid, to go through those mechanisms I've already showed you, so that one, you can reverse it, two, you can actually stop the incidence of it occurring. And it starts with fruit. Now, everybody's heard of cherries and tart cherries. A lot of research, dozens and dozens of studies on cherries, improving every single one of those mechanisms to reduce gout. So that's without doubt. And that's cherry juice, cherry concentrate, cherry powder, cherries themselves. So you just go out and get the cherries and you have them consistently whenever you can. Mulberries, mangoes, apples, and berries have all been shown in studies to reduce certain components of it, but I couldn't find any human-related gout studies. But the bottom line is they have lots of ingredients in them, at least 2 or 3, that have been shown to reduce the buildup of uric acid, to increase excretion. And the great thing about all of these things is that they work together. You know, apple isn't just apple. It's got dozens of nutrients, and all of them can benefit in the reduction of the buildup of uric acid, hyperuricemia, and gout. So the message is you look at all of these and say, what can I add into my diet and lifestyle? And these are really simple things. Berries, blueberries. You've heard of all the health benefits of blueberries and raspberries and strawberries. Well, there's gout benefits of them too. So add them in as much as you can. Then you get on to drinks. And the first one is obviously drink lots more water. Yep, drink lots more water. Check out my videos on lemon, vinegar and bicarb too. By the way, it could help. But water, without doubt. And then you've got 2 teas here that I'm sure you'd be interested in. All of the research shows that coffee benefits gout, reduces the incidence, and actually helps in stopping the production of the uric acid and increases its excretion. What's great, it's got 2 little ingredients in it, chlorogenic acid and caffeic acid, both of which have been shown to benefit the mechanisms of reducing and eliminating gout. Wow. And studies, interestingly enough, show the more coffee you have, the better it is. So my message isn't, don't go overboard with the coffee, but if you like a coffee, have 1 or 2 extra ones. Now remember, not late in the day, because it does have caffeine in it, which can keep you awake. And if you're sensitive to it, and there are people who are, trust me, I've met many of those people that have a cup and they bounce around for a day or 2 because they don't have the enzymes in their liver to detox it. Well, in that case, don't. Stay away from coffee and go for the low caffeine green tea. You can get low or no caffeine green tea, because the catechins, they're the polyphenols, the nutrients in green tea, have been shown repeatedly to, again, affect that whole process of reducing uric acid production, increasing excretion, and of course, all of these things, in addition to that, lower inflammation and oxidation, which are the underlying negative consequences of the buildup of uric acid. So there is so many possibilities how these can help and benefit you. So green tea, have lots. I have probably 2 or 3 cups of green tea virtually every morning, and then I drink lots of tea during the day. Make sure it's all flowing through the system. But by the way, I have put it on the topic of drink. You can't eliminate stuff if it's not flowing through the system. So drink lots more. Drink lots more. Essential oils. 2 studies I found. One was on eucalyptus. Now this isn't to rub on, by the way. You can rub it on, but these were taken as essential oils. A couple of drops in water given to experimental animals, not humans, but a couple of drops of food-grade essential oils, eucalyptus and rosemary, both showed positive results in reducing the production of uric acid and increasing the elimination of it. So both of those, eucalyptus and rosemary, make sure they're food-grade and just use a few drops. You always dilute it. But by the way, you can also apply it to your toe if it's not too sensitive. It won't hurt. Well, it might hurt the toe, but it won't hurt the gout, so to speak. So these can be used. Lots of other essential oils, I'm sure, will show up in the research in the next couple of years to do with it. Then there are spices, and the first of these is curcumin, turmeric, and there are dozens of studies on turmeric benefiting, or curcumin benefiting gout. Now, there are thousands of studies. It is the most studied herb out there. So thousands of studies, thousands of studies showing the benefits of curcumin in terms of health benefits. So everybody should be supplementing with curcumin. There is no doubt every single day. And of course, if you've got a bout of gout, then make sure you increase that dose. And my suggestion is you keep it up to what you're supposed to do. Ginger, ginger shows up. Interesting. I found a study that dated back, I couldn't get any information on it, but it dates back to the 1850s on the use of ginger in gout. That was one of the original treatments of gout. And ginger and curcumin and turmeric are very closely related and inclined. So if you like a little bit of ginger with your Japanese food or anything else, add it in. That's where you can do this. You can add these things. This, by the way, obviously curcumin and turmeric makes up a big component of curry. So why not just eat a few more curries and add a bit more of the curry powder into things that you can eat. Celery seed, celery oil, and celery juice all show up as having huge benefit, multiple benefits. And when I looked into the ingredients, because I've been doing this for a long time, it's got three ingredients in it. Two of them in particular that I come across all the time, a pigeonine and luteolin, and another one is the chlorogenic acid, which you've got in coffee, is in all of these, those three ingredients. And when I look at these individual three ingredients, they're all potent anti-gout, anti-uric acid, hyperuric acid buildup. So all of them, and it's got at least three, but all of these have so many nutrients in them that are going to benefit you. How do you take the seed oil? Well, all of this, if you can get them as concentrates online, you can go online, order them, you go to the health food store and get them, or you can just make your own. Some stores sell celery seeds or oil, and I make my own juice sometimes when celery's a little bit less expensive than it is right now. And so that, again, all of these. And then you've got the herbs. And at the top of this, the studies, lots and lots of studies done on garlic. Now, garlic can be used as a powder. There's a powder form, obviously your raw garlic, your cooked garlic, they all have benefits. They're all shown to be beneficial in terms of gout. And there's one called aged garlic. And these, by the way, have benefits not just in gout, but as I've emphasizing with all of this, garlic is probably one of the single best herbs that you can take for hypertension and the risk of cardiovascular disease. Watch my other video on that one because it's obviously related to gout, and it shows marvelous benefits for reducing these and at the same time reducing the buildup of uric acid and increasing the excretion of uric acid. Because garlic isn't just one thing, by the way. It's got dozens, if not hundreds of ingredients in it, and many of those are anti-gout. Then you've got another one called berberine, which is, you actually find that in lots of other herbs. But again, you can check it out. Plantain is from the banana family, but it's not bananas. They're kind of the green, skinny little bananas, and they use the whole banana, the banana peel, and the banana leaf. Now, you can get that as a supplement as well. Go online. And withania, one of my favorite of herbs, been used for thousands of years in Ayurvedic or ancient Indian medicine, and it has so many benefits across the board. Again, I use it pretty well all the time. And withania, also known as, what's the name of it? Ashwagandha or something like that. Sorry for the poor pronunciation. So absolutely beautiful. There are 4 herbs that can be added. Now you can get these as supplements, and of course with the garlic you can get it in your food and so on. Chinese medicine. There are thousands of studies on Chinese medicine and gout. Yeah, and you go, hold on, the research on this stuff has been thousands of years, but even in the scientific papers of the last 50 years, there are thousands of studies on gout and Chinese medicine. And the ones that come up, now sometimes they pick up individual ingredients like berberine, and they talk about garlic, and they talk about some of these celery seed and ginger and curcumin and all these other things being used, because Chinese herbal concoctions are a mixture of many, maybe a half a dozen or even a dozen or more. But they've actually been tested in the studies, on mice studies and cell studies, and in double-blind placebo-controlled studies with humans, which is where these 3 come in. These are the 3 that I found where they've done studies with humans in gout patients and found that it relieves gout, lowers uric acid, and has all those other multiple benefits. Because again, when you look at the concoctions here, it's time tested, it's scientifically tested, and when you look at the ingredients, you just know that they're going to work because they have lots of these other things and more. So Tong Lixiao, Please, I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I just do the science behind it. 𝐬𝐨𝐥𝐮𝐭 and 𝐬𝐨𝐥𝐿. They're three that show up, but there are dozens of concoctions. So my recommendation that if you know a good Chinese herbalist, go and see them, because they're going to give you maybe some other ones or combinations that may help you individually as well. Supplements are a really critical and crucial part of this program because they can really enhance some of the things you're already doing. And they can be cheap, cost-effective, and very, very easy. I'll begin with the first one, which is vitamin C. All of the studies on vitamin C overwhelmingly show lower vitamin C, higher gout. And in the studies where they introduce vitamin C with people who are more likely to have gout, it reduces the risk of the incidence of gout. When people have gout, it reduces the severity and stops the reoccurrence of it. It's a win-win-win situation. Vitamin C, and the studies range between about 600 milligrams, not much, and 1,000 milligrams, which is 1 gram. I take 3 grams a day. What's interesting though is all of the studies show that the higher the dose taken in the study, you ready? The greater the benefit on reducing gout severity, symptoms, and reoccurrence. I take 3 grams, as I've already said, so I'm giving you a little bit of a hint here. Vitamin C is extremely cost-effective and you ready? Extremely safe. Then you go to magnesium. All the studies link low magnesium with higher uric acid and higher levels and frequency of gout. And so magnesium is another one that we should be supplementing with. It also helps alkalize the body and is involved with about 200 or more different biological chemical reactions through the body. So it's absolutely essential, absolutely essential. So magnesium, potassium. Potassium is really easy to get because you can actually get it as a supplement with something called potassium citrate, or you can just eat a little bit more fruit. Because most of your fruits, your bananas and rock melons and all those things have lots and lots of potassium in them. So a couple more pieces of fruit, especially some of the ones, even the berries and so on. But there is a plant called moringa, M-O-R-I-N-G-O, which is really, really rich in potassium and also has lots of other health benefits. I couldn't find a study on it and gout, but it has so many other benefits. It's worthwhile looking into moringa. Then you've got melatonin. Melatonin is the sleep neurotransmitter. Now, if you've got dysbiosis, you've got a sick gut, you've got reflux, melatonin can help you a lot. Any issues to do with the gut, melatonin is a no-brainer. Your gut actually, in a healthy gut, produces 400 times more than your pineal gland. Now, you think melatonin is just for sleeping? No, it actually is one of the most potent antioxidants in your body. But we also find that melatonin, as melatonin goes down, uric acid goes up, and vice versa. When uric acid goes down, melatonin goes up. And so what we want to do is supplement with melatonin. It has so many other benefits, and like vitamin C, it is a very, very safe. Unlike vitamin C, it's actually produced in the body. However, if you've got anything wrong with your gut, it's very hard to produce the amount that your body needs for maximum benefit. So melatonin supplement, absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, it shows it reduces the incidence of gout and uric acid formation. Quercetin, another one spelled pretty funnily, but you get that in onions and apples and a little bit in garlic, but best as a supplement. And the studies on quercetin are phenomenal. There are dozens of studies on the benefits of quercetin in gout, reducing uric acid and going through the whole process. At every level, these work at every single level, which is why it makes it so powerful when you add a couple of these together. So quercetin, another one is resveratrol, you find in red wine, but there's not enough in red wine to have any benefit at all. But it is great as an anti-gout. Then you've got omega-3 oils. These are the fish oils. Now, these all lower inflammation, but you've been told so many times, have more omega-3 oils, have more fish oils. They lower inflammation, but they also lower uric acid production. And as I'll mention later, like all of these things, they also help on the gut microbiome. So omega-3 fiber is an essential ingredient in fixing this. Your gut, everything works through your gut one way or another. I'll share with that in a moment. But fiber is the key and cornerstone of looking after it. And the studies, again, show that fiber reduces the increased incidence, the increased intake of fiber decreases the incidence of gout. And I'll explain in a moment a little bit why and how it can do that, but increase your fiber. And then the final one as a supplement is sodium bicarbonate. You say, hold on, isn't that what they mix in breads and things like that? It is. But if you take a half a teaspoon first thing in the morning, mixed in with some water. Now, I have an extensive video on this. I'll put the link down below. Have a look at it because it helps alkalize the body. And in the process of alkalizing the body, it helps decrystallize the gout and other stones, by the way, other crystallizations around the body, e.g. kidney stones and so on. So all of the studies, as I highlighted earlier, link gout with increased rates of acidosis. And so what you want to do is increase the sodium bicarbonate, and that's a half a teaspoon mixed in with some water, away from food first thing in the morning. Then we go to what draws all this together. You see, all of these and all of the foods and even the lifestyle programs that I've mentioned benefiting gout, they all also benefit the gut. So while something like, let's say, omega-3 oils are anti-inflammatory on their own, when they go into the gut, they actually look after the gut microbiome too. Vitamin C, the same. Vitamin C, consuming higher doses of vitamin C actually help protect your gut microbiome. Now, not many people know that, but because I've been working on the gut for so many decades now, so what do we want to do? Well, we want to increase prebiotics, the things that feed it, and that's the fibers, okay? And my favorite fiber is 𝐬𝐨𝐥𝐭, 𝐬𝐨𝐵.com. You can check it out. But fibers, you can get some other fibers at your supermarket, extremely cheap. Make sure it's a mixture, not just one. And if you're going to get a commercial brand, make sure it doesn't have any colors or additives in it, because the additives actually poison the gut microbiome. Probiotics, which I'll talk about in just a moment, which ones and so on. But the probiotics produce these short-chain fatty acids and butyrate. And butyrate, one of these short-chain fatty acids, is anti-gout, anti-uric acid formation. So again, one of the major mechanisms of how probiotics work. Now, the great thing about probiotics is all of the studies show that they help reduce chronic kidney disease, arthritis, diabetes 2, hypertension, heart attack, stroke, atherosclerosis, uric acid, gout, and many, many other things. So it's a win-win-win situation here. And by simply taking some supplements with probiotics every day, all of the research shows it speeds up, it speeds up the healing from gout, the incidence and severity of gout, all of it. But I suppose the definitive studies is what's called a washed microbiome transplant. It used to be called a fecal micro transplant. Basically a bit of poo swapping, okay? And what they do is they get some poo, some good feces that have got the good bacteria in, and they replace them. They wipe out the bad, or the mix of bacteria people have in their large intestine, and they replace them with these ones. And they actually show that the gout incidence drops right down. The gout severity drops right down simply by changing the gut microbiome. So we know from that fecal microbiome or the wash microbiome transplant that the gut has a huge impact on gout. So it's the gout or the gout gut. And if we can build up that gut microbiome through all the things I've said, and check out all my videos, I've got a lot on building the gut. Because if you've got any of these ones, the first thing you're going to want to do is, well, I want to work on my gut. I really want to work on it. What can I do? Because it's not just all of the things that people say, like I'm saying here, there are things to avoid as well. And I cover a lot of that in the other videos. So please have a look at those videos. There is so much information, and also share this, please, because it can have such a big impact on people's health. The gut is the single most important thing when it comes to looking after our health and well-being. But coming back to this, what we know is when they've looked at the bacteria species that are the most effective in it, they find that it's a lactobacillus species. Now, this is the main ones you get in yogurts and so on. But then they've got the type Lactobacillus reuteri, fermentum, paracei, gassei, brevis, and salivarius. Now, ignore my pronunciation of them. I'm just the guy who reads them out of all the journals and then shares that information. But what we find is those bacteria have been shown to be most effective. So what you want to do is get a supplement with those ones in it. Now, there may be some other Saccharomyces or bifidobacteria. There's not much research coming out on those, but I have no doubt This research, by the way, is really just for the last 5 years, so none of your specialists or GPs will know about it. And what they find, you ready, is first of all, it decreases the purines in your food. So you've eaten a purine-rich food, and if you've got more of these, it actually stops them, or it breaks them down already before they get into the body and start to cause problems. Wow, that's great. It decreases the conversion to uric acid in the body, so it stimulates mechanisms in the body to decrease the uric acid production. It increases excretion out of the kidneys. And finally, it gets rid of it out of the body better and cleaner when you have these bacteria, when you've added these bacteria in as a supplement. So the answer is really, we know it works. When they supplement, the studies show on supplementing gout patients, people who have a bout of gout, it dramatically decreases the severity. And if you do all this program, it can have a big impact on making sure it doesn't reoccur again. How serious are you about fixing this problem? Do you really want to get rid of the gout and the pain? There is no magic bullet. There is no magic drug, no magic pharmaceutical, nothing magic about it. It really comes down to what I've highlighted here, what I brought together with all of the research. There's hundreds of scientific papers, and it comes down to your lifestyle. A couple of things you can do: start fasting and exercise. Two really simple strategies you can start now. Exercise can be anything you want, just a little bit more mobility. Then you go on to diet. You've got to get rid of the fructose and preferably sugars and processed grains. Get off the cereals for a time being. Even a short period getting off the cereals will make a big difference to help your body to be able to deal with it. And then you've got to increase your vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs and spices. When it comes to your spices, there is no doubt. Increase your curcumin. That's the turmeric. They're the curry powders. How tasty can it get? Just make everything into a curry now. Garlic, absolutely. That can be dried garlic, it can be aged garlic, it can be powdered garlic, it can be garlic straight from your garden. It doesn't matter, but add more in. And remember, garlic, like curcumin and all these other things, have multiple benefits in reducing your risk of a heart attack, stroke, hypertension, so many benefits. So add it in. Then you've got, alongside, you've got all that, your celery seed oil. You can get these as supplements. You get them in specialty shops. And then we go back to the fruits here. Cherries and berries. You all know about the cherries. Great. But add in some berries as well. And then when it comes to supplements, how easy is it? Get some vitamin C. Remember, 1,000 milligrams at 1 gram is minimum amount. But the more you have, the better results it showed in the studies. Magnesium, quercetin, omega-3, and fiber. These are all the things that I talked about. And if you want a review, just go back and have a look at that video again, take a photo of it and say, okay, this is what I need to add in. And finally, all of this stuff comes together in the complete gout solutions with probiotics. Add in the probiotics because they can magnify, they can multiply, they can synergize all these other things you're doing along here to really improve it. And remember, this is just really late, very, very recent research. But there are dozens and dozens of studies. So the gut has a big role. I've given you all of the information that's available currently in the scientific literature. Now, please hit the subscribe button below and share this with your friends.